years that have been working with. Okay. And back to the and then we have these programs that are the the master in competences, masters in business incubation, so focus on startups, new companies, and managers of social innovation oriented to social projects.
Okay.
So each one of them is an area where we can have. So anyway, you have there all the other stuff, but that way you know more.
Great. By the way, am I? Thank you for showing that to me. Am I recalling correctly, Mariano, that that you and colleagues wrote an article about the Cologne Panama project triple bottom line?
Yeah.
Am I recalling that correctly?
It's double, but it's true. Yes, it's called City Doctors.
Yeah, that was published. There was something that was published. I'm trying to recall the article that was published in my journal. Or was that Sonora? It may have
Sonora. Yeah.
More likely Sonora. Okay.
Because City Doctors is later.
Right.
You know, it's probably, it's likely, but I really, I confess, I don't remember.
It doesn't matter.
But I've got a recollection. What did you publish? But I think that the City Doctors went to PHJ.
Yeah. No, I can't.
Because
if I can't recall, I don't know why the hell you would be able to recall. So don't worry about it. So.
Okay.
Again, thank you for that. So our conversation today, Mariano, is really in support of the fact that you were nominated to be a board member and president of ISPI. And in talking with Rose, and this would have been a conversation that under other circumstances Rose would have had with you, but she is so booked up to here today and into next week that I offered to have the conversation because doing it in a timely way was more important than Rose has the conversation after the fact.
Okay.
So a couple of things. Number one, congratulations on being nominated. I think that's great. Number two is if it's your intention to accept the nomination and to run as a board member and or as president of ISPI, then there's related paperwork that needs to be completed and turned in, I think, by the 31st, sent to Scott Cassad.
Oh, help me with that, because let's start by the beginning. What I received resent to me was a request for precisely papers and there was a questionnaire.
Yeah, there's probably several questions to answer and then return. I don't know exactly what all the paperwork is.
Well, let me finish my question.
Please.
And so you can help me because I want to make sure I do the things right.
Okay.
It was sent by Carlos Antonio Viera,
Right.
ISPI Nominations Committee Chair 2019-2020. You know?
Right.
Okay. And this, I skip the other things. It's just a matter of timing. If you accept blah, 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 blah for the role, etc., please respond by October 25.
So now it's the 31st.
Oh, perfect. That I wanted to make sure because that's good because I had to, they put a long questionnaire. Even to start reading, it took me a little while. And,
okay.
Yeah, perfect. Number two, then 31st is official. So
that's my understanding, and that's so I will. So that said, well,
okay?
so that said,
can use
I will support and argue that it's by the 31st.
Good, good. Because that gives me time to do, I mean,
Yeah.
several of the questions they pose there. Okay. And, well, the answer is preliminary, yes, yes. If I can help, I will be happy to. I think
Cool.
it's, the time frame seems right. I mean, it's a year from now.
Right.
And
so it's like, yeah. So if you were elected, it would be as president-elect.
yeah.
So you have a year. Correct.
And what that means in terms of, I imagine that you are no longer doing the traveling to the same place every time you have a meeting, a board meeting. It's no longer.
So I don't know what you're referring to.
In 2006, between 2004 and 2006, I worked in the board. And that required us to, each time we have a meeting, it was a meeting of the bodies, not just the minds.
Yeah, no.
So we have to travel to, I don't know, Nebraska.
No. So the way it is now, and that's part of the other piece for me to share with you, okay, has to do with like, what are the expectations or obligations? The way it stands now is we have board meetings twice a month.
Oh, okay.
Virtually.
Okay.
Virtually.
That makes sense.
They occur
That's
right
good.
now. Right now they occur. They're an hour-and-a-half meeting. They occur virtually. They occur the first and third Friday of the month.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And we get together. The other explicit, like when we get together in person, is at the conference. Okay. So we build in time several days after the conference. Okay. To get together as a board in person.
Makes sense.
To discuss stuff and to set the stage for where we are and how we want to be moving ahead. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
When I knew that I was going to be having this conversation with you, I asked Rose to share with me the kinds of things that if she were having the conversation with you, what she would want to share with you. So if you see me looking over here, it's like my notes. I'll put it in front of me so I don't do this. I just drop my head.
So let you talk because you have a long list, I see.
It's several things, and I think both for Rose and myself, it was like taking on something like being a board president, being a board member, let alone being a board president, is a significant commitment. And oftentimes, and I've certainly seen this in the brief time that I've been on the board, oftentimes when somebody comes on the board, they may be surprised / shocked at where we are and what we're up to and what all is being entailed. So at some level, despite whatever we tried to do, there was some slippage between a person saying, yes, I want to play, count me in, and understanding fully what they were saying yes to. Make sense?
Yeah.
So I wanted and
do that's Rose / you, of course, understand that I've been there before. I served 2 years.
Yes.
Okay. So
just so we know you're not
things that is probably you can imagine that I already familiar.
You probably have some you probably have some idea based on history.
Yeah.
And the world now and the situation now with ISPI is not the same that it was in 2004, 6, or 6, 8, or whenever that was.
Hope so.
So without intending to minimize or marginalize your historical involvement and your experience, I'm erring on the side of, when in doubt, provide more rather than less information.
Sure. Okay.
So that you're informed.
Go ahead.
So these are the notes that Rose has given me, and
do you have them on screen and you want to share it with me so we can?
I don't have them on screen.
Don't worry. Go ahead.
If I need to bring them up, I can. But let me kind of read them to you, and we can talk about them and whatever. Time commitment of the president is now about 3 to 4 hours a day.
Every day?
Every day. This is without. Right now, we don't have an executive director.
Okay. So the president is supposed to absorb part of the executive director task?
Basically, executive director function has been redistributed among several of the board members, not just the president.
Okay.
Now,
made that 3 hours a day is wow. Sounds
it's significant.
Yeah.
And Nancy Burns, who is currently on the board and is serving as treasurer, she's in a position where she's spending so much time as treasurer that she's had to back off on what she's doing for her own business. It's temporary, but so there's just lots of stuff to be doing.
So the person who was Courtney is no longer working with ISP?
That is correct. We can't afford her.
Okay, no, because I never received any notice, and I still have her in my email. Therefore, I'm copying, things that shouldn't go to her, and I wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, she is on a 1099. So like a subcontractor.
But.
So in other words, she's not an employee of ISPI. She's a subcontractor to ISPI for certain things.
Okay, but not the executive director work.
She is not the executive director. That is correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
Now, it says here, and I need to clarify that. The time commitment of the president is now about 5 to 10 hours when we have an executive director. So that doesn't make sense to me that the time commitment would go up. That might be per month rather than per day or a week. Or it's probably a week.
Let me tell you one thing. Okay, let's take the estimates with a grain of salt. I've been a partner. 40 years ago, I was partner at Andersen Consulting. Okay, we have time reports at Andersen. In order to you have accounts for your time. Each half hour have an accounting item. I know exactly that those are estimates. Some people. The idea is that you have some daily interaction with some things. Those are the things that should be, they are missing from the description I printed out that was sent. I will appreciate someone to send me a description of the functions, the current functions of the president. So I know what are the things he's supposed to do, because that, me and anybody else who's, because my impression, based on past experience, obviously may differ, but the point is what kind of things are expected from other than, or whatever,
Right. So some of that,
We can talk about how much time could it take depending on how you organize the organization, which is another story, which is also, since you don't have an executive director, the board probably has to.
some things still need to happen. They need to happen, if not by an executive director, then they happen through board offices and so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Some of the thing I'm imagining, and I will make note of other things that I read to you. If when you talk about an identified function of the president, maybe that some of the things that Rose gave me are in fact are that, and there may be others as well. So let me share those with you.
Sure. Go ahead.
Need to be on time with articles once a month to PX, Performance Exchange.
What's that?
It's an ISPI publication.
What means on time with articles?
So there's probably something that the president writes. It might be like a newsletter. It might be like 500 words about what's happening with the organization.
Sure.
That kind of thing. Need to be present at every board meeting, bi-weekly executive council session, which is weekly.
Okay.
Need to be liaison to at least governance and membership committees, but also for one or two others when board members are not available to take on those duties.
Okay.
Need to be at all events possible, but especially at all, hold on, let me finish now. Especially at all some ISPI symposia, conference, and institutes at own expense, so that's not something that need to cultivate at least $5,000 in sponsorship.
Wait. Let's start with the at own expense, going to symposia and.
So at least conference and institute as own expense without compensation. So one of the things that board members do is they attend official events, and it's on our own dime.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, when I went to Charlotte
Mm-hmm.
for the fall symposium,
Mm-hmm.
I paid for that.
Yeah, like we did with Barcelona and Washington.
Exactly. When I go to Tucson next year,
Mm-hmm.
I'll pay for that. ISPI will pick up.
Well, the only thing that you have maybe to add is how many of these events are expected to take place requiring traveling, because that may mean a budget more significant because you have to go there.
Right.
Supposed to.
That's so.
And yeah.
Got it. And I'm thinking at the very least the conference, and I'm not sure what else. So
Yeah,
I'm making a note for myself to get clarification on that. Need to cultivate at least $5,000 in sponsorship or revenue generation, but also need to make close gap in revenue versus debt. So I've made just as a personal example, I've made contributions to ISPI since I don't know so many people to generate sponsorships as a way of generating revenue, but I'm still hold myself accountable as being on the hook for whatever that target is. There's that. This is an important point, and one of the reasons I have this, and I'm reading this to you rather than sending this to you, is because the next point that I'm going to read you is a sensitive one.
Mm-hmm.
We're now about $300,000 in debt, and have not been able to work that down this past year significantly. It's down. In fact, over the last couple years, it's down by more than $200,000. So we've made a big dent. We're moving in the right direction, and we've got some things in place to continue to move to reduce the amount of debt that we have. but we are in debt. So a lot of the things that we would like to do, we simply haven't had funding for. Could not, we're really looking to, now is not the time to take out the credit card, right? This is like understand what we have and what we can do and be.
Yeah.
Our debt has, I guess, next point. Our debt has been restructured. We have a monthly commitment of about $40,000 in recurring bills right now. 18 months ago, it was about twice as much.
What are those recurring bills about, grossly speaking?
They have to do with expenses incurred over the past several years. So, for example, repayment of monies to hotels from conferences.
So, repayment for past conference in the past. So, ISP didn't pay the bills?
Correct.
Ay, Dios.
Yeah, really.
I mean,
no, you thought like, no. So we are digging out from under. We had expenses that we're now getting out from under regarding the company that housed and hosted our website, which has historically been such a fucking disaster. We're now.
You guys are also asking to be paid for that.
We're closing that out. That will be closed out very, very quickly. But the point is that we have expenses that were incurred by previous boards that ISBI as a society is still on the hook for. And so we've been working really, really hard. Nancy has done a tremendous job as treasurer. Rose, a lot of this falls on Nancy and Courtney to some extent in terms of the renegotiating things.
How far back go the pending bills of hotels for past conferences?
Don't quote me on this. I think 2 or 3 years.
So the last 2 or 3 years there were unpaid bills for hotels, but not before that.
That's what I think. That's what I think. I haven't looked recently at the treasurer's report. Yeah. Which is more likely to give me exactly what that is and what the breakdown is on this.
A serious thing to do would be to send me that report or whomever is interested, because that way you know what you are signing to. It's like if I were, and I've been asked for a member of boards of real companies, the first thing you ask, even for consortium here, I just last night we have a debt and a funding to pay for that debt in this building, for example. So for all those things, you have to have the financial statements to see, okay, this is the situation for next year or this year, today. Of course, it's confidential because but the same manner you are telling me, so I can read and look at but again, it's very good what you give me this. Now I understand. Okay, go ahead, please. Yeah.
So what I'm making a note is like either send treasurer report or financial statement if I can get that cleared and appropriate to share. So yeah. I will.
I need to have the legal statements. Okay, what I need to have is a written description of the line items that are in P&L. So what are the sources of revenue and what are the pending liabilities? That's what anybody taking a position in a board has to know before signing for, because of course you have a responsibility.
We put ourselves on the line. That's right.
Yeah. Beyond the I'm going to get more money, all that stuff. Nice.
Right.
This is I'm signing to. It's like I live in this building, so I'm responsible.
Right.
Well, I don't know who was here, and
right.
But we are not, or anybody coming like you, I mean, you didn't sign on whatever happened. Not to,
I'm personally responsible. Right.
but yet, exactly, by
And
accepting.
we have insurance for that, but I absolutely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, go ahead, please.
So the last itemized piece is, it may be obvious, but this person needs to lead the board, inspire, support the board members to succeed. And Rose's note says, I think it's only fair for someone who's thinking of the president's office in our society to know these points of reality. So that's
Sure, I agree with her completely.
So that's the what's so. I've got some notation here in terms of clarification and things that when I get off the phone, I can reach out and see what I can handle and get to you as quickly as possible.
Exactly. So
and I'm happy obviously to answer any questions that you might have at this point in time. And if I don't know, then I don't know, and then it becomes something to find out.
Okay, a couple of things then about that. Okay, information so I can see. I will prepare whatever thing here was required and send it before the 31st. One important thing here is, well, I have 2 or 3 ideas that, regardless of ISPI, are part of my more, for me, ISPI as an organization is a means to an end, okay? My end is advancing performance, improvement, knowledge, and practice, period. And producing something of value. So one way, of course, is the virtual network. The other way is conferences, programs like City Doctors, developing educational programs like the Masters Programs Managers of Social Innovation. One thing that comes to my mind now, because I'm working with this partnership with universities, and I will write this down, is I never saw, but I've been to. Last week I was with the Council in Foreign Relations, of which I am a member.
Here in Chicago.
Here in Chicago, yes. We were in a fundraiser.
Right.
And we have Colin Powell.
Nice.
When you talk about that amount of money, that's another thing I'm going to suggest, that seriously professional fundraising is dignified profession, people who helps you to create events to collect money. Now comes the other thing, and why the approach to ends is indispensable to get the means. You cannot raise funds to pay the debt. I mean, right. Argentina has been trying to do that for a while, and you know how it goes. So you can go hat in hand and try to, and you usually get right. an interest, a higher interest and more debt.
Right.
So what you do when you do a fundraising is you have to have a mission, a motive, something worthwhile for what people will part with money. Okay? So there is where you have to intersect the self-interest of an existing legacy organization like ISPI, all his pending bills, with the interest of a larger society that can give you some money to do something.
This is the Venn diagram.
Yes, and here's where comes that the future is belated today. If you don't have that idea, you cannot collect money. Therefore, there is no way you can pay that amount of money, or much less, by just making individual members or getting people to attend a conference, physical conference or otherwise, in short term. So one thing that is important is what you saw in Washington, what you saw in Barcelona, what somehow Carol has been showing in Europe, is the way to go. But you have to do it you have to identify things that will help to fundraise. So what are we going to raise funds for? That's going to be my motive to run for. Okay? If you cannot convince people to support the cause with their pockets, to write checks, and in order to do that, you have to show some results beforehand. Not say, oh yeah, you give me the money, and in 10 years, you will have a beautiful world. We are going to win so much. You will be tired of winning. Well, that's hard to, but if you show people that the things that I'm going to put the things you already know, you have,
Yeah.
but you said
Yeah.
you have to organize.
I mean, there are absolutely, there are things that we can point to.
Yes. Yes. And this is not just what I'm doing, it's just what everybody.
Understood. And it certainly includes the things that you're doing.
Yeah, but that's the point.
But it's bigger.
Of a non-profit society is okay. That is the only way I can imagine you can get off that amount of money of that. Because the other way is to say, okay, let's put together all the members and say, okay, we divide it, and everybody has.
No. So clearly, we're looking beyond that.
Well, yeah. In order to see beyond that, you have to have a vision. A vision that means, okay, these, and these are the things. It's not each member of the board will bring X amount of money. Because when doing what you are doing now, you are putting money from your business into the society, which is a noble thing to do. I appreciate that very much. But okay, it's good money after that. So the point is having
Well, it's at the very least, it's a holding act. At the very best, it's a holding action.
But you cannot do that forever. You have
correct. Understood.
Your own bills.
Well, not only can't I won't. But the point is, I'm willing for right now. I'm willing to.
Yeah.
And I'm looking to see how we can turn the corner and shift.
Yeah.
Create an inflection point and shift the trend line.
Yeah, but you see the difference. I'm making these points so you have it more clear. Number one, serious fundraising means serious topics. So you have to come with this topic. We have people who had these things, but we have to put this together and say, okay, events that will help towards that purpose. Number two, that is very important as well, is you have to create win-win partnerships. I'm going to give you an example. The way Ispi has been managing the mailing list is completely obtuse.
I'm sorry, say it again.
The way ISPI has been managing its mailing list is completely obtuse.
It has been managing what? Its
mailing list.
Mailing list.
Mailing list. Yes, yes. So what is the way is, okay, we cannot give our mailing list or share our mailing list with our members because we are not going to put that beyond. So when you do that kind of thing, what happens is each member organization has a different mailing list. Nobody shares with ISPI. Guess who loses? Now, you think the other way around. Because Lazar has a list, Bernardes has a list, Kaufman has a list, or, Rambler has a list. Now, if you work the other way around and you start by thinking what keeps the society working are sound business that sponsor the society. Who are your sponsors? What is what your sponsors will find useful? Expanding.
Access.
Exactly. If you have 10 people and think about fundraising, that's it. Fundraising 101. If you have 10 members, each one has 1,000 mails. 100 maybe will be worthwhile. But anyway, 1,000, you have 10,000 if you share. Okay? But in order to do that, you have to have a plan and say, okay, and then instead of looking, oh, we need more members, that's the silliest thing you can ask is, okay, let's go to the street.
It's fine, but that's never on our best day. Well, that's never going to be sufficient.
I mean, we can go to the streets and get 1,000 people putting $10, okay? But
no.
The idea is more, and it will never look good. But what makes more sense is you have Margot Murray, you have different organizations that will eventually support ISPI if we create some kind of events that are important and say, okay, this is a way to showcase our business or pursue business. And then you have the other thing. Instead of living in the nimbus of technology, you go back down to earth and say, you know what? If we are in Washington and we are the Potomac chapter, don't you think all these people around the conference should be aware that we are doing the conference and we have, I mean, what is the purpose of having a chapter there if you can cross the street and get into the International Monetary Fund? 3 blocks away, you have the Organization of American States. And you are bringing in people from Mexico. You do a little networking with the guys, but you have to have the right guys. What I mean is, once you establish an interesting agenda and you invite, for example, Joseph to talk about human rights, civil rights, etc., you met the right people. I did my best, but of course I have like, and I was talking with, Peter was a nice guy, but he's doing other things. It's like inviting, if you call me to find people for a soccer game, or baseball, it's going to be sad because I understand that it's a great game, but if you invite me to talk about, okay, let's look for the guy who has books. Yeah, I can help with that. So my idea is sponsors, serious sponsors, mean you have to have something to, and sharing.
There needs to be something serious to be sponsoring.
Yes, and multiply, make it escalate. So
yeah,
1,000 times 1,000, not divided. And if someone say, oh, we are giving away our emails. Yes. And you know what? I'm giving you for free ideas. Free consulting. Oh, free consulting is the stupidest thing I heard. Sorry, Joe. But it's the stupidest thing. We have been doing free consulting in Andersen Consulting and in Arthur Andersen forever. McKinsey does free consulting. I can read you. What means free consulting? You offer people a taste. And people say, wow, I like that. Come to my company. The society helps you to get the call. It's a Rolodex. You understand? And that's what makes it worth, commercially speaking, and people put money. Otherwise, we all come because we are interested in the topics. But companies will pay if they have some kind of place where they can showcase, for example, why Andersen Consulting or Accenture is not sponsoring. Why IBM Consulting? Those are the guys we have to talk with.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to tell them what to do or what to talk about. They have to tell us what they have now that we may want to, and maybe you understand the idea, no? Okay, that's what I'm going to try to write down. But I think that outside of that is I have to pay for painting the building and living, and that will take all my money available for the common good.
I understand.
Okay. But great. Thank you for telling me what you told me, and if you can give me more information, it would be great.
Yeah. So I will. You know, I'm thinking that other than the point about